HFY adjusted his plasma rifle's targeting system for the third time, his four eyes tracking the strange bipedal creature that had wandered into their territory. The human, if the intelligence reports were correct, stood barely 2 meters tall, with pale pink skin and sparse fur only on its head. It looked fragile, almost delicate compared to the armored Korthak warriors surrounding it. "Remember," HFY whispered into his comm unit, "Command wants this one alive for questioning. One clean shot to disable, then we capture." The human seemed oblivious to the 12 trained soldiers positioned around the rocky outcropping. It was examining some kind of small device, occasionally looking up at the twin suns with those ridiculous tiny eyes. The creature appeared to be taking measurements, completely unaware that death surrounded it in the crimson shadows of the canyon walls. HFY had killed 17 different species across 9 star systems. This would be the easiest target yet. He centered the crosshairs on the human's torso and squeezed the trigger. The plasma bolt struck the human's center mass, a direct hit that should have dropped any creature instantly. The energy discharge lit up the canyon with brilliant blue light, and the acrid smell of superheated air filled HFY's nostrils through his helmet filters. The human stumbled back a step, looked down at the smoking hole in its garment, then did something that made HFY's blood freeze in his veins. It laughed. Not a cry of pain, not a death rattle, but genuine amusement. The sound echoed off the canyon walls, a strange rhythmic noise that the Korthak had never heard before. It was almost musical, like some primitive form of communication. "Well, that's not very friendly," the human said, brushing ash from its chest. Its voice was calm, almost conversational. "I don't suppose we could talk about this instead?" HFY stared through his scope, mandibles clicking in confusion. The creature was still standing, still talking. The plasma bolt had definitely hit. He could see the burn mark on its clothing. But there was no wound, no blood, nothing. Did you miss?" came Corporal Thek's voice through the comm. "Negative," HFY replied, though doubt crept into his voice. "Direct hit, center mass." The human was walking toward their position now, hands raised but not in surrender, more like someone approaching a nervous animal. "I'm guessing you folks aren't from around here," it called out cheerfully. "Name's Jake Morrison. Mind if I ask what this is about?" HFY stared through his scope, mandibles clicking in confusion. The creature was still standing, still talking. The plasma bolt had definitely hit. He could see the burn mark on its clothing. But there was no wound, no blood, nothing. Did you miss?" came Corporal Thek's voice through the comm. "Negative," HFY replied, though doubt crept into his voice. "Direct hit, center mass." The human was walking toward their position now, hands raised but not in surrender, more like someone approaching a nervous animal. "I'm guessing you folks aren't from around here," it called out cheerfully. "Name's Jake Morrison. Mind if I ask what this is about?"
"Impossible," muttered Sergeant Thakvar as he watched the human approach their concealed position with casual confidence. Korthak plasma weapons can punch through starship hull plating. Nothing organic survives a direct hit. The energy output alone should have boiled the water in its body. HFY's hands trembled as he lined up another shot, this time aiming for the creature's leg. Perhaps a limb would be easier to disable than the torso. Maybe their intelligence was wrong about human anatomy. The plasma bolt screamed through the air with deadly precision, leaving a trail of superheated particles. Jake Morrison didn't even break stride. The energy blast struck his thigh with a brilliant flash, and he looked down with mild interest as his pant leg smoldered and disintegrated. "Okay, that one actually stung a bit," he said, continuing his casual walk toward them like he was strolling through a park. "You guys really should consider talking first, shooting second. Much more civilized that way." Panic began to set in among the Korthak positions. 3 more shots rang out from different concealed locations as the other soldiers opened fire without orders. Each bolt found its mark with military precision: shoulder, abdomen, leg. The air crackled with discharged energy, and the smell of ozone mixed with burning fabric filled the canyon. Each time, the human's clothing burned away in patches, revealing unmarked pink skin beneath. Each time, Jake Morrison kept walking and talking as if they were discussing the local weather patterns instead of engaging in what should have been lethal combat. "You know," Jake said, now close enough that they could see him clearly without scopes, "where I come from, we have a saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. But there's another one too. Insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Might want to consider that second one." Thakvar activated his emergency beacon with shaking claws, sending a priority signal directly to Fleet Command. This was beyond their mission parameters. The human was either wearing some kind of advanced shielding technology that their sensors couldn't detect, or the thought was too terrifying to complete. "Sergeant," one of his soldiers whispered through the comm, voice tight with fear, "I'm reading no energy signatures from the target. No shields, no armor plating, no defensive technology of any kind. It's like it's not even there." Jake was now within 20 meters, close enough to see the genuine confusion and growing terror in the alien's large, compound eyes. He stopped and sat down on a convenient boulder, pulling out what appeared to be a standard water container and taking a leisurely sip. "Look," he said in a tone that suggested he was genuinely trying to be helpful. "I can see you're having some kind of technical difficulties with your weapons. Happens to the best of us. Technology can be finicky. But since we're all here anyway, maybe we could have a chat instead? I'm actually pretty curious about your species. Never seen anything quite like you folks before." The Korthak soldiers exchanged glances through their helmet displays, their tactical readouts showing impossible data. In all their years of warfare across 17 different star systems, conquering primitive civilizations and establishing imperial dominance, they had never encountered anything like this. Their weapons were failing against a single, apparently unarmed creature who seemed more interested in conversation than combat.
Thokvar's superior, Commander Veltar, materialized as a hologram above the portable communication array, his expression skeptical even through the blue-tinted projection. The commander's battle-scarred carapace and multiple service decorations were clearly visible despite the flickering transmission quality, lending weight to his obvious disbelief. "Let me understand this correctly, Sergeant," the commander's voice crackled through the canyon's interference. "You and your entire squad, 12 of the Empire's finest soldiers, have been firing plasma weapons at a single human for 10 minutes, and it's laughing at you?" "Affirmative, sir," Thokvar replied, stealing another glance at Jake Morrison, who was now apparently napping against the boulder, hat pulled down over his eyes like some primitive sun shield. The human's chest rose and fell in the steady rhythm of sleep, completely relaxed despite being surrounded by heavily armed alien soldiers. No visible wounds, no defensive technology we can detect. The creature appears to be completely immune to our weapons. A long pause filled the communication channel. "Immune to plasma fire?" "Yes, sir. Plasma fire that can melt through reinforced durasteel plating at maximum power settings." "Correct, sir. We fired 17 shots total, direct hits every time." Commander Veltar rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands, a gesture that indicated either severe stress or the onset of a migraine. His mandibles clicked in the particular pattern that subordinates had learned to fear. "Sergeant, are you suffering from heat stroke, altitude sickness, some kind of hallucinogenic gas leak from the planet's atmosphere? Because what you're describing violates several fundamental laws of physics." Before Thokvar could formulate a response that wouldn't sound completely insane, Jake Morrison stretched lazily and sat up, apparently having heard the conversation through the comm system's external speakers. "Oh, you're calling for backup," he said cheerfully, brushing dust from his remaining clothing. "That's actually pretty smart tactical thinking. More people usually means more chances for reasonable conversation and diplomatic solutions." He stood and walked closer to the communication array with that same casual confidence, causing several soldiers to raise their weapons reflexively before remembering how utterly useless the gesture was. Their targeting systems locked onto him automatically, displaying firing solutions that had already proven worthless. "Mind if I say hello to your boss?" Jake asked politely, waving at the holographic projection. "Seems rude not to introduce myself properly." "Do not," Commander Veltar began, but Jake was already addressing the hologram with the kind of friendly demeanor one might use when meeting neighbors at a backyard barbecue. "Afternoon, Commander," Jake said with a genuine smile. "Beautiful day here on, well, I never did catch the name of this planet. Anyway, your boys here seem to be having some equipment malfunctions. Might want to have your technical division take a look at those plasma rifles. Could be a calibration issue." The hologram flickered as Commander Veltar leaned forward, studying the human intently with all four eyes. His expression shifted from skepticism to something approaching horrified fascination. You're the target?" "Target seems like a strong word," Jake replied thoughtfully. "I prefer unexpected acquaintance. Though I'll admit the shooting on sight thing was a bit rude." "This is impossible," Veltar muttered. "Thokvar, fall back to the extraction point. I'm sending a full assault team with heavy weapons." Jake's eyebrows rose. "Heavy weapons? For little old me? I'm flattered, really, but isn't that a bit much?" The thunderous roar of the approaching Korthak assault dropship made conversation impossible for several minutes, its massive engines creating a sonic boom that rattled the very foundations of the canyon. Jake shielded his eyes and watched with genuine scientific interest as the colossal vessel descended through the atmosphere, its hull bristling with weapon arrays that could level a small city or crack a moon's surface. The ship was a Devastator-class assault carrier designed for planetary subjugation. Its dark metal hull bore the scorch marks of 100 battles across the galaxy, and energy readings from its weapon systems made the portable scanners of the ground team scream warnings about imminent radiation exposure. "Well," Jake said to himself, having to shout over the deafening noise, "this escalated quickly." 50 Korthak warriors disembarked in perfect formation, their powered armor gleaming with military precision. Each soldier was a veteran of interstellar warfare, selected from the Empire's elite forces. Behind them rolled a walking weapons platform that looked like it belonged on the bridge of a battleship rather than carried by infantry. A mobile assault cannon capable of reducing fortified positions to atomic dust. Commander Veltar himself strode down the ramp, his ceremonial armor glinting in the alien sunlight. The insignia of his rank were etched in precious metals, and his personal force field shimmered around him like heat waves. This was a commander who had conquered 12 star systems and brought 17 species under imperial rule. "Human!" Veltar called out, his voice amplified by external speakers that echoed off the canyon walls. "You will surrender immediately and submit to imperial custody. You will be treated according to the galactic conventions of war if you comply." Jake raised his hand in a friendly wave, seemingly unimpressed by the massive display of military might surrounding him. "Hey there, Commander. Really nice ship you've got there. Impressive firepower, too. Very intimidating design. Though, I have to ask, isn't this a bit much for one guy with a water bottle and some rock samples?" "You have demonstrated impossible resistance to our standard weapons," Veltar replied, signaling his heavy weapons team with crisp hand gestures. "We will now test the absolute limits of your..." Assault cannon powered up with a whine that made the very air vibrate and caused small rocks to levitate from the ground. Its targeting laser painted a red dot on Jake's chest as massive capacitors charged to full power, drawing energy directly from the dropship's reactor core. "Last chance, human. Surrender or face complete annihilation." Jake sighed deeply and sat back down on his boulder, crossing his legs comfortably. "You know what? Go ahead and get it out of your system. But after this, can we please try talking like civilized beings? I really think we got off on the wrong foot here." The assault cannon fired with the force of a small star going supernova. The blast could have vaporized a small building. The shockwave knocked several Korthak soldiers off their feet. When the dust and superheated plasma cleared, there was a crater 3 meters wide where Jake Morrison had been sitting. For a moment, silence reigned in the canyon. Then, from within the crater, came that same impossible sound: laughter. Jake emerged from the smoking pit, clothes completely incinerated, but skin untouched, still chuckling as he brushed rock dust from his hair. "Okay, that one actually tickled," he said. "Your weapons technology is really quite impressive. The energy efficiency alone must be—" He stopped, noticing that every single Korthak in the canyon was staring at him with expressions that could only be described as existential terror. "Oh, come on," Jake said. "Surely someone in the galaxy has encountered humans before?" The blast could have vaporized a small building or melted through a kilometer of solid bedrock. The shockwave knocked several Korthak soldiers off their feet, their powered armor systems struggling to compensate for the massive energy discharge. When the dust and superheated plasma cleared, there was a crater 3 meters wide and 2 meters deep where Jake Morrison had been sitting. The rock turned to glass by the incredible heat. For a moment, absolute silence reigned in the canyon. Even the ambient sounds of the alien world seemed to have been temporarily erased by the devastating weapon discharge. Then, from within the smoking crater came that same impossible sound: laughter. Jake emerged from the smoking pit like a phoenix rising from ashes, clothes completely incinerated, but skin untouched and somehow still pale pink instead of charred black. He was still chuckling as he brushed rock dust and crystallized debris from his hair with casual movements. "Okay, that one actually tickled quite a bit," he said with genuine appreciation. "Your weapons technology is really quite impressive. The energy efficiency alone must be remarkable. What kind of power source drives something like that?" He stopped mid-sentence, noticing that every single Korthak in the canyon was staring at him with expressions that could only be described as existential terror mixed with complete psychological breakdown. "Oh, come on," Jake said, spreading his hands in a gesture of friendly exasperation. "Surely someone in the galaxy has encountered humans before. We're not that rare, are we?" Commander Veltar's hands shook violently as he accessed the Galactic Intelligence Network on his personal command datapad, his claws clicking against the interface with desperate urgency. Around him, his soldiers maintained their positions, but their weapons drooped forgotten in trembling grips, utterly demoralized by the complete failure of their most powerful armaments. "Computer," he said, voice hoarse with strain, "search all available databases for species designation human. Priority Alpha Override." "Searching Galactic Archives," came the artificial response. "Warning, this search requires access to classified military databases restricted to senior command personnel. Authorization code required for sensitive information." Veltar input his command codes with trembling claws, his 4 eyes never leaving the impossible creature standing calmly in the crater it should have been vaporized within. This situation was far beyond standard protocol now. He needed answers before his entire unit suffered complete psychological collapse. "Search complete. Species human found in restricted database. Classification level Omega Black. Access restricted to Fleet Admiral level and above. This information is classified due to potential destabilizing effects on galactic civilization and military morale." "Override," Veltar commanded desperately. "Emergency field authorization. Extreme circumstances." Jake Morrison, still naked but apparently unbothered by this fact or the stares of 50 heavily armed soldiers, had found another boulder to sit on and was examining the crater with the detached interest of a scientist studying an interesting geological formation. "The first rule of holes," Jake Morrison said conversationally, as he watched the Korthak warriors slowly backing away from him with the careful movements of people trying not to provoke an apex predator, "is that when you find yourself in one, stop digging." Commander Veltar approached cautiously, his hands visible and empty, weapons powered down completely. The assault cannon had been retracted and its targeting systems disabled, a gesture of surrender that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, but right now preparation seemed utterly pointless. Human Morrison, Veltar said formally, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had just read their own death warrant. My most sincere apologies for this unprecedented misunderstanding. We were not aware of your species' true nature. Jake tilted his head with genuine curiosity, like a scholar presented with an interesting puzzle. My species' nature? What exactly do your classified files say about us? Must be pretty dramatic to make a whole army back down. That you are. That humans are. Veltar struggled with the words, his mandibles clicking nervously. How do you tell someone they're classified as a galactic-level extinction threat? How do you explain that their entire species is considered too dangerous for normal diplomatic contact? That your people are remarkably resilient to physical damage? Resilient? Jake seemed to taste the word, rolling it around like fine wine. I suppose that's one way to put it, though it sounds much more impressive than it actually is. Though I have to say, this isn't exactly resilience in action. This is just Tuesday for me. Tuesday? Veltar's translator struggled with the unfamiliar concept. Day of the week, human time measurement system. The point is, this isn't anything special or unusual. Jake gestured casually at the glowing crater behind him, still radiating heat that made the air shimmer like a mirage. Back home, my nephew Tommy survived a direct lightning strike during his baseball game last month. Finished the entire inning before mentioning it to anyone. His coach was more upset about the delayed game than the whole struck by lightning thing. Several Korthak soldiers exchanged glances through their helmet displays, their tactical computers trying to process the implications. Lightning strikes were planet killers on most worlds, weapons of the gods that could split mountains and boil seas. You see, Jake continued, apparently enjoying his audience and their rapt attention, humans have this saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Most civilized species throughout the galaxy take that metaphorically, as philosophical wisdom. We took it as a design challenge for our entire evolutionary development. Veltar's datapad chimed softly. More information was being declassified in real time as his emergency request moved up the chain of command, each new revelation more terrifying than the last. Human Morrison, he said carefully, our records indicate that your species has survived a black hole encounter? Oh, that, Jake laughed. Yeah, the New Hope incident. My cousin Sarah was on that colony ship. Said it was actually kind of pretty inside the event horizon, like being in a really big, really dark snow globe. The artificial gravity went a bit wonky, and they lost their internet connection for a few days, but otherwise, no big deal. No big deal, Veltar repeated faintly. Well, except for the lawsuits afterward. Turns out the navigation AI had taken a wrong turn at Alpha Centauri. Heads rolled in the transportation department over that one. Very embarrassing. Thokvar leaned over to whisper to his commander, Sir, perhaps we should offer food. Jake's head perked up. Did someone mention food? I haven't eaten since this morning, and getting shot at really works up an appetite. The emergency rations that the Korthak carried were designed to sustain their species during extended combat operations in hostile environments. High energy, nutrient-dense, and flavored with compounds that most carbon-based life forms found pleasantly spicy. The bars contained concentrated proteins from 6 different worlds and minerals that could keep a soldier fighting for days without rest. Jake Morrison took a bite of the combat bar, and his eyes lit up like a child discovering candy. Oh, wow! This is absolutely fantastic! What's that incredible flavor? Is that actual capsaicin? You guys eat peppers? This is amazing! The red spice is derived from the fire flower of Keth Prime, Veltar explained, settling down across from Jake with his own field ration, still hardly believing he was sharing a meal with a creature classified as an Omega-level threat. Most carbon-based species find it challenging to their digestive systems. Some find it lethal. It's got a really nice kick to it, Jake agreed enthusiastically, taking another large bite and savoring the complex flavors. Reminds me of my grandmother's famous chili recipe. She used to grow these peppers called Carolina Reapers in her backyard garden. Those were good times. Family gatherings, everyone crying and sweating but coming back for more. Around them, the Korthok soldiers sat in a loose defensive circle, sharing their field rations with the strange human who had laughed at their deadliest weapons and emerged unscathed from a crater that should have been his tomb. What had started as a military operation with clear objectives had somehow transformed into an impromptu diplomatic picnic under alien skies. "Human Morrison," Veltar said carefully, still processing the surreal nature of the situation, "I must ask, why are you here? On this planet, I mean. It's quite remote, far from established trade routes." Jake swallowed and wiped his mouth with what remained of his shirt sleeve, the fabric still bearing scorch marks from plasma fire. "Survey mission. I'm a geogeologist. I study the rock formations and mineral compositions of alien worlds. This system showed some really interesting geological anomalies from our long-range scans, so Earth's Planetary Survey Division sent me and my team to take a closer look." "Alone?" Thokvar interjected, unable to hide his concern. "Oh, I'm definitely not alone," Jake said cheerfully, completely missing the implications of his statement. "My research team is back at our landing site, about 50 kilometers south of here. They're probably wondering where I got to by now. I was supposed to check in hours ago." Thokvar nearly choked on his ration bar, spraying crumbs across his armor. "There are more of you? More humans?" "Sure, 7 of us total on this mission." Jake began counting on his fingers like he was listing ingredients for a recipe. "Dr. Chen is our xeobiologist, Martinez handles atmospheric analysis and environmental systems, Patel's our mechanical engineer, Thompson and Okafor are on archaeological survey duty, and Rodriguez is our mission commander." Jake paused, his expression becoming slightly worried. "Actually, Rodriguez is probably pretty mad at me by now. She specifically told me not to go wandering off alone into uncharted territory." The weight of this information settled over the Korthok warriors like a heavy blanket. 7 humans on their planet, unsupervised? "Perhaps," Veltar said carefully, "we should escort you back to your team to ensure your safety." Jake grinned. "That's very kind of you. I'm sure the others would love to meet you." Fair warning, though, Chen gets really excited about new species. She'll probably want to study your biology, ask about your homeworld, maybe collect some tissue samples if you're okay with that. Very professional but enthusiastic. "Tissue samples," Veltar repeated. "And Martinez will want to know everything about your atmospheric requirements, how your technology adapts to different planetary conditions, that sort of thing. Oh, and Thompson will absolutely lose his mind over your architecture. He's been hoping to find evidence of advanced engineering on this planet." The commander stood slowly, brushing crumbs from his armor. "Squad," he announced, "we're providing escort services to our new human friend. Full diplomatic protocols." As they packed up the impromptu meal, Jake stood and stretched. "You know, this has been fun. Different from my usual field work, but fun. Thanks for the food, and for not shooting at me anymore." "Thank you," Veltar replied sincerely, "for not taking offense at our misunderstanding." Jake laughed that strange human laugh one more time. "Off? Are you kidding? This is the most interesting geological survey I've ever been on. Wait until I tell the folks back home about this." As the mixed group of humans and Korthak set off across the alien landscape, Veltar made a mental note to update the species database entry for humans. Under the recommendations section, he would add, "Humans are surprisingly reasonable. Offer food and ask about their work. They appear to enjoy sharing stories." After a moment's thought, he added one more line. "Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to study their recreational activities. Some things," he decided, "were too terrifying even for Omega Black classification."